We also need to keep our eye on, Kosher, don't we, the promises made by the Albanese government in the lead up to the election. Now, one of those promises, and I was majorly supportive of this, that they were going to attempt to put a nurse in every aged care facility around the country. Now, while I was supportive of it, I never believed it could actually happen. Well, we see on Q&A last night the aged care minister, Annika Wells. Have a listen to her trying to dig herself out of a hole as to whether this has actually happened or not.
Your clear promise was to have all aged care facilities 24/7 registered nurses by July.
Yeah.
The coalition at the time said that's not going to happen. And now we know it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
How many are going to have 24/7 nursing? How many aren't?
Yeah, so we don't require people to report on their 24/7 nursing policy until 1 July starts.
So you don't know?
So that will open. We don't have exact figures. We've got various kind of, the department's obviously in touch with the 2,700 facilities we have in the country.
Is there a guesstimate?
We have a sense. We have a working sense, but it honestly changes.
What's the working sense?
Day to day. I wouldn't want to reveal it because it changes day to day.
Kosher, what a train wreck that was for the government.
Indeed, and this is an example of why people increasingly find promises in the political arena to be a cheapening commodity, Steve. So, it's easy to throw that stuff out there without any understanding of how to operationalize it. It illustrates a few other things to me. So it illustrates, again, an example of when government is in the business of running and operating these large-scale institutions. They basically generally overpromise, underdeliver, and don't have a handle on kind of the logistics that go into that. The other thing to me that this signals is it really is a soft sell for another policy position, immigration, which is one that is really fascinating all across the Western sphere because it's an issue that has a very large disconnect between what the majority of the electorate wants and thinks is the right quantum of immigration, yet where people fall. So I can see that coming up. And then just the last point, too, with this whole aged care debate is that on some level, I actually think it's an indictment of society and where we've come as a society and maybe the breakdown of family where why is there this large institution where we sort of outsource care for aging parents? I understand the practical reasons for that, but I do think taking a step back and thinking about how we've gotten here is an important reminder that the story sort of brings to light.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, my older elderly mother is still at home in her own place, and I just make sure she can stay there as long as possible with people to look after her. I think that's a much better place to be. Garth, given the horror show that is the Queensland health system, did you ever believe when those promises were made during the campaign that there would actually be a nurse in every aged care facility in Queensland?
No, I didn't. I absolutely didn't. And I said so at the time. And the reason I didn't, because I went out and I spoke to the aged care facilities in my area. Look, like you, I've got an elderly father who's in care at home and I want to keep him there as long as I can. But, this probably will be a reality for me and my family, like many Australians. And when the Prime Minister made those promises, he knew what he was doing. He was tapping into the heartstrings of Australians who do care about how our elderly citizens are looked after in these facilities. But this is just another broken promise from this government. I mean, some of the promises they made were extraordinary. To say $275 will be taken off your electricity bills. What a strange promise to make, that they were going to reduce your mortgages. When we look back on it now, it's so far outside the pale, it's almost humorous. But the sad truth is, look, there's a long line of promises that have been broken. And I think actually, if you look at what they've done in aged care, not only have they walked away from this commitment, I think they've made things a lot worse, particularly, I've spoken to a lot of my pharmacies in those outer regional areas in my town, out past Oakey, Pittsworth, these places. They provide so much service to aged care facilities, and they're not going to be able to do that with the changes that have gone through on 60-day dispensing. So not only have they walked away from their commitments, I think they've made things worse in aged care.
Garth, take me inside question time. How frustrated do you get when you're sitting there in the opposition benches and, question time after question time, your side asks questions of the new government on broken promises, but you don't really ever get an honest answer, do you?
I don't think we've had a single answer, honest or dishonest, yet from this Prime Minister. He's very tricky in the way he answers those. And yeah, look, I do get a little bit frustrated at times. I've been removed every now and then. I like to raise my voice when I think that the government is walking away from the scrutiny that they deserve to be put under. And that's the whole point of question time, for the Australian people to hear some honest answers from this government. And I think at this point, a year in, it's not acceptable anymore to go back and keep talking about the last 10 years. You know, this government has control of the economy now. This government has intervened so much, it's got its fingerprints all over the economy. They can't pretend that it's not theirs now.